Welcome to our Network Services 4 webinar. It'll be myself and Graham Ellis, our Head of Commercial. So just a bit of housekeeping from me first. There'll be a Q&A session towards the end of the webinar where if you leave messages in the chat, I'll drop a message in there shortly so it pops up for everyone. But if you're not too familiar with Zoom, if you go down to the bottom taskbar, if you just click the chat icon there, you'll be able to drop any messages or any communication in there, just so Graham can go through and do the presentation. When the Q&A session comes around, we can switch to that. So other than that, I think it's just to summarise the after webinar process that we're going to do. So there'll be a recording of the session sent to you all. There'll be a crib sheet with the main points, and there'll also be a copy of the slide deck as well. So if you do have colleagues or anyone that can't attend today, plus anyone that can't attend who's messaged already, we'll get that sorted. So that's everything really. I'll hand over to Graham.
Cheers, Chris. That's great. Hi, everyone. So let's get started. So in terms of the webinar, we're going to cover Network Services 4. Now, the framework isn't due out until Q2 next year. It's in pre-market engagement at the moment. So what we're going to cover is what we expect it to kind of look like, products and services that will cover, and what will be included in the application process. In terms of about us, Thornton Lowe is an established bid writing company based up in Greater Manchester. We specialise in helping clients grow their business through framework access and competitive tendering, plus a host of other services. The webinar, as I say, is about Network Services 4, and to give an understanding on what we're predicting the application process to look like. We will be hosting another webinar nearer the time, which will give more information. If you've got any questions, like Chris said, pop them in the chat. Anybody that knows me knows there's no such thing as a silly question. If we don't know the answer, we will go and try and find it out. So networks are why frameworks ultimately, and why Network Services 4 frameworks. So frameworks are the easiest way, in essence, to supply your services to the public sector. They give you access to opportunities because you're pre-screened, and ultimately you've already met a certain element of the criteria. They provide you and the buyer with legal protections because there's standard agreements, call-off contracts, and processes to follow. So we'll make sure it's compliant with the procurement regulations under the Procurement Act 2023. It's efficient and cost saving. So because you've done most of the work in the framework application, mini competitions and call-offs will be, or flexible competitions will be ultimately streamlined. So it will reduce costs to the buyer and to yourselves for having to go through things. And it builds reputation and trust. Ultimately, being on a government framework enhances your reputation and credibility because you've demonstrated that your business is already meeting the kind of standards that are expected. In terms of frameworks, there's a number of different types. So the one that this will be on is probably going to be an open framework, which means that they can look at reopening it for new suppliers within the time. It could be a standard, but we're expecting it to be an open framework. So Network Services 4, ultimately, it's there to provide different types of services, including network solutions, communication solutions, connectivity to cloud-based data applications, audio video conferencing, radio and satellite networking, and emerging technologies, things like Internet of Things and smart cities. We're estimating it, as I say, to be an 8-year framework, with it being expected to open after years 3 and year 5 for new intake. Estimated spend could be up to 16 billion, figure keeps changing. In terms of call-off contracts, we're expecting no minimum or maximum term for call-off and flexibility to choose the appropriate extensions. They're also looking at incorporating the flexible procedure for further competitions. So traditionally, suppliers would have bid under a mini competition. Actually, they can use other ways to do this. So it can be proof of concept, it can be discovery, negotiation, presentation, or other forms that are done. The rate card, we're not quite sure how it's going to work, but I'm guessing it's probably going to be similar to Network Services 3. They are looking to introduce short order forms and modular schedules. They're looking at aligning the call-off terms to remove complexity, and they're giving consideration and expecting appropriate terms. So depending on what the contract is, the terms should be appropriate to that contract. So we don't have the lot structure confirmed as yet, but what they have said, it's going to be simpler than the current Network Services 3 framework. The lot structure that they'll produce will cover the listed types of services. I'm not going to list them all because they're on the screen, but in essence, what they'll do, they'll come up with a grouping of lots and sublots that will cover those main areas of product types. As soon as we get the consultation on the lot structure, then we can share that out to the mailing list that's generated from people that have signed up to the webinar. As well as that, I will also send you the current supplier engagement. The more people that feed into this, that ultimately the better it will be for us. In terms of aspects of the application, things that we need to consider. So there is going to be technical ability certificates or TACs. They're the contract examples. Generally, they have to be contracts that are less than 5 years old, have certain values and meet certain service lines that will go along the lots. There'll be a financial viability risk assessment, FVRA, and we're expecting it to be at the gold standard. Each lot will have technical based questions, quality questions, generally 3 or 4 per lot, around 10,000 words, and there will be some type of social value declaration or answer. You would need to consider how you bid in, so you can bid as a single bidder, one single supplier, or you could bid as a consortium, and there's different ways of setting up the consortium. If you use subcontractors, we can talk around how you would bring those into the application if needed, and depending on your level of turnover, if modern slavery is needed in the supply chain and other bits. Other parts that we need to consider are things like public liability, professional liability, employers, and product liability insurance. Previously, they've been set between 5 to 10 million, depending on the level, but they'll need to be in place for the contract award. Cyber Essentials Basic will be required, but some lots probably will need plus. Carbon reduction plan will be in line with the procurement note. We need your past 3 years of accounts, produce a social value policy and action plan. And as I say, the technical questions are likely to make up 70% of the overall score, which includes 10% for social value. The deliberate mistake that's not on there is you will need a carbon reduction plan as well, produced with the, like I say, with the 0621, but it will need to show initiatives and other areas of improvement and the plan to get to net zero probably by 2050 or 2045 if it's an NHS call-off. So in terms of Thornton Lowe, what we do, we ultimately provide a managed service to get through this. So we're engaging now with Network Services 4, even though it's not out for a few months, because it is a huge framework. And having supported Network Services 3, the more planning, gap analysis, compliance, and preparation that we can do with people now, the easier that 4 or 5 week application process is. So first bits we do is we identify policies, procedures, certifications, accreditations, other bits that we need to go through. We look at providing templated documents that can be tailored to your business need, and we can advise on kind of specific framework requirements and other bits. When the framework comes out, we go through the pack, we break it all down, and we produce a project plan that will get you through the submission. We coordinate all the document collation, financial declarations, evidence, and submission. We do the writing of the technical questions with your information, and we manage the deadlines to make sure it's done. And then through the evaluation and post-award, we monitor the portals, make sure everything's okay. When you're awarded, make sure you've got all the award information that's applied, and then market or work with you to market the award and the opportunity, and maximize your kind of presence on the framework. So very quick canter through. As I say, we're in pre-market engagement with CCS at the moment, and suppliers are being requested to submit their feedback. There's an online form that people have been asked to fill in. What we'll do when we send out the webinar and we send out the recording and other bits, we'll put a copy of that link in the email so people can feedback to Crown Commercial directly, and you'll be invited to the supplier engagement sessions, which are expected to be held in January and February next year at the moment. So, Chris, any questions?
No, just a reminder to anyone, if anyone's got any questions, if you want to, feel free to unmute yourself, because there are only a few of us in here. If you want to do that, or you can drop them down in the chat section. But if we've not heard anything, we'll we've got like a frequently asked questions section already prepared from previous webinars that we do, sort of common questions that we are asked. So we'll put those into the follow-up material as well. So again, if anyone's got any questions, let us know. If not, if you have any questions from the follow-up materials, then we'll put some contact details on that as well.
Like I say, we are really ahead of the curve on network services because it's such a key and big framework. We really want to start engaging with people on this. There are other network-based and connectivity-based frameworks that are due out between now and then. But network services is the one that ultimately central government and major projects are run through. So, we want to engage with that. So if there's nothing like I say, what we'll do, we will pop out the slides, we'll pop out this short recording and the link to the supplier engagement. Oh, we've got a question, Chris.
Yeah. So Kim's just asked, what are some of those other network-based frameworks? I'm sure you can rattle through plenty of those.
Yeah, if you give me a second, I will tell you. Let me just unshare my screen. This will be unflattering now, won't it? So there is one which is up, which is running for Network Rail. There is a framework which is due to hit from Homes for England. There is another framework which is due to be released for Internet of Things, and which is a Northeast Northwest framework. What I'll do, Kim, I'll send you the links to them, and you can have a look. Alternatively, if you go to the Thornton Lowe website, and if you go onto our tender pipeline, you can register for free. You'll be able to search them and see that information.
Great. Okay. She asked a further question just around what might come out under TS 3 or 4 or Network Services 3 or 4. Like some major contracts come out under subcontracting against services that would usually fall under NS3. I think what she's trying to say is like which opportunities come under 3 or 4, and how are we supposed to keep track of that?
Okay, so Crown Commercial, in my eyes, have got 4 major tech frameworks. G-Cloud, that's your Amazon Marketplace type thing, which is your software, you can go on, buy the service done. The 3 other ones are technology, products and associated services. The next iteration of that is due out towards the end of next year, and that's for the hardware, the kit supply, keyboards, mice, laptops, screens, other bits. Technology services should be for system development and MSP kind of service desk. So those supplies, and network services should be used for ultimately the kind of networking connectivity and that part. Now, what we saw under technology services 4 was they simplified the lot structure and made it a little bit clearer that this was for MSP kind of service desk. This was for MSP network support. This would be high value, low value. This is for your signed delivery and other bits. So what they're trying to do is be more defined, so people are being sent or using the right framework to procure the right service. Now, as we all know, probably on this call, public sector sometimes don't do that because the supplier won't be on that framework, and it depends how they code it and where they list it. But ultimately, those 3 types of framework, those 3 frameworks, TPaaS, Technology Services 4, Network Services 4, they're the 3 kind of bound areas. What we would need to do, I think, Kim, is look at some of the pipeline that's coming through from some of the buyers, so the published pipeline, see what they're buying and where they're buying it, but also as the competitions happen, seeing if it falls under the right structure in the right areas, because if they're trying to procure something under tech services 4, which would be under network services 3 or 4, then that needs to be identified to them.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll wrap it up there, and just to give you a bit of a roadmap for what will happen after the session, there'll be a crib sheet that will come out to you all tomorrow. There'll be a recording of this session, obviously, and feel free to contact us using the details on that information with any further questions or anything like that. But other than that, hope you all have a good rest of your day, and thanks for attending.